Grab your beverages and turn up your interweb. Solving the world's problems 12 ounces at a time. It's Dudes and Beer.
Well, hello everybody, and welcome to this very special edition of the Dudes and Beer broadcast.
Special?
Very special, hugely special, hugely special.
Like 50 years,
Huge.
hugely.
You've never seen an episode like this. It's such a fantastic episode that, you know, sorry, that's the best Trump I can do. Every time I try, I just crack my ass up, just the fact that he's the fucking president.
I knew what you were getting at, but
I know, right?
Version of it.
So yeah, seriously, folks, welcome to Dudes and Beer. This is a special emergency broadcast because, like, the federal government went out and actively declassified a whole chunk of JFK files, and Steven and I were working a gig today, and it was like, man, dude, as soon as I saw you, right, I was like, hey, I know you're giving me a ride home after the show, but what are you really doing? And he's like, nothing. Why? I'm like, we got to go do an episode about this, man. Like, we cannot let this happen and not talk about it as much as we have talked about it on this show since we've been together. And for those of you who don't know, this is officially our first Knowledge Vault episode. I've decided to launch some Knowledge Vault episodes over at dudesandbeer.com. If you go to dudesandbeer.com/knowledge, you will find the Knowledge Vault. And the Knowledge Vault is full of all kinds of great things. They're all downloadable documents. I'm working on this JFK dump. It's massive, and I think it's purposefully massive.
Oh, yeah.
And we'll get into that.
Yeah, so you can't find stuff.
But quite literally, we have constitutional and civil rights PDFs and documents there that you can view and download. We have scientific documents and stories, studies, like Nikola Tesla patents, things like that, all kinds of stuff. We have a whole section of declassified government programs and documents.
It'd be years, maybe decades before all this stuff can even be sorted through, I'm sure, right?
I mean, it's taken me years to compile it.
Yeah.
I can tell you that. And it's stuff like, and the next topic is UFOs and paranormal, and that's where you get all the stuff like Brookings Report and, Project Blue Book files and things like that. And then the final category there is life skills and more, and that's kind of like survival. Like you want to know how to like make a lean-to shelter. Like here's some PDFs on how to make a lean-to shelter. Here's like 10 different ways how to make fire without a lighter or a match. Nice. That kind of stuff. Things that I think everybody should know. Like if you're dude, I've been stuck at a bus station and had to use survival skills because it was like 30 degrees outside. You know what I mean?
Jeez.
So if you go to the Knowledge Vault and go to declassified government programs and documents, once again, that's dudesandbeer.com/knowledge. You will find the very top, because it is the juicy stuff right now, is JFK assassination files released yesterday, October 26th, 2017. And when you click that, it will actively take you to the National Archives, which has a zip file. Number one, it tells you download just so you understand how to use it, you have to download the Excel document. Okay, because the Excel document goes through all of these zip files. There's literally like, if you scroll down, you just see tons of PDFs.
Look at this.
Tons and tons and tons of PDFs.
Looking at it right now.
And it's, there's easily, let's see. There is on one page there are 50 PDFs, and this stuff goes like keeps going and keeps going and keeps going. You can see like there's 9 pages and even more of these PDFs that came out that it's just this, like I said, a massive data dump. And just the history behind it here, folks. It was on November 22nd, 1963 at 12:30 p.m. in Dallas, Texas, while riding in a limousine, open-top presidential limousine with Governor Connolly from Texas here in Dealey Plaza, that John F. Kennedy was assassinated by sniper rounds. And I say sniper rounds for a reason. I don't buy into, and let's just lay it on the table right here at the beginning, all right? Because we did mention the other night in the Apollo episode that, and I was telling you in the car on the way over here, I am changing my rhetoric.
Yeah.
I'm no longer going to use the term conspiracy theory.
Tell our listeners what you're talking about.
It's wrong. Because you shouldn't use the term conspiracy theory, see? Because in science it goes hypothesis, theory, proof, law. That's how it works. Those are the 4 steps to science, okay?
Right, of course.
And amongst that is a lot of discovery. Amongst that is a lot of research, everything else. But you have to have a hypothesis first. Somebody has to go, hey, wait a minute. What if this? And it's wild, folks.
Right.
At one point for like a good like 10,000 years of our existence as people, you know.
I bet gravity, when it came about first, it was wild. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Like we thought the Earth was flat from the time of caveman until almost Magellan.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And there are still people arguing whether or not the Earth is flat.
Yeah, that's very true.
You know?
Dude, I can't believe that. But
I loved the meme during the solar eclipse of the flat earthers eclipse, and it was just a black line across the moon. Because that's the only shadow you'd see if it was a flat Earth.
Yeah.
You know?
So I don't even know how they can still exist and believe in that, but it's like, okay.
But you know, it's one of those. I'm starting to change my rhetoric to I have a hypothesis of conspiracy. All right, because I'll give the fact that I might be the only person that thinks this.
Right.
All right. So this is my idea. It's not a theory because it takes more than one person kind of like checking out a hypothesis.
It has to take one person to actually have it.
And it takes more than one person. It takes more than one scientist looking at a hypothesis and saying, oh, hey, wait a minute. This dude hypothesized something. And now that I think about it, you know. Yeah. Like,
and you better think about it with an open mind, and not just be like,
you know, and that's just it. And we've talked about the empirical system of science and how the religion of science as it exists today. But when it comes like the JFK assassination, I'm not going to say was the beginning of conspiracy theory in our country. It really won't. Because I mean, there are conspiracy theories before that. You know, I mean, hell, it's like not even
Lincoln
a theory.
and Booth.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, that was before.
Absolutely, and there's still question as to why John Wilkes Booth did it.
Right.
You know,
still to this day.
There was a huge conspiracy there amongst people to assassinate the president. That was an active conspiracy. It was not a lone gunman.
Did he act alone? Did he act part of a group? Yada, yada.
Oh, no, he was definitely part of a group.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole movie about it, and I'm trying to remember the name of it. If Randy's listening, friggin' chime in, dude, because he was the one that made me watch it. But it's a real case.
Come on, Chatters.
About the woman who put Booth up.
Oh, in the barn?
In the halfway house.
Okay.
Because not halfway house.
Maybe back then it was a barn.
But you know, like back then you stayed in a house. You know, like you went and you rented a room for like 3 weeks. It was like a boarding home was what it was. And he'd come into town and stay for a couple weeks and do a show at the theater. And then he'd leave and stuff like that.
Isn't that kind of really weird how that coincides with the Oswald kind of a little bit?
Well, with
his actions.
We'll get into that. We'll get into that.
Yeah.
But, you know, the whole thing with Booth was the fact that this woman was actively put in prison.
What?
Because they believed the conspiracy took place at her house.
Right.
And because they knew that there were other actors he was involved with, that there were other people. Because there was an attempt on the Secretary of State's life.
Right.
And he lived. Like, it was a coordinated attack. They tried taking out 3 heads of the Union.
Damn. No, I believe it. Back in the Civil War.
That's just a fact. Yeah. That's a fact.
Yeah, that's a fact.
You know? But the movie was based on this woman who literally had like the fight of her life. They were threatening to like kill her children, all kinds of stuff. They held her in prison because they thought she was part of the conspiracy.
Right.
You know, and had to prove that she wasn't. So one of the first conspiracy theories to ever come to court.
You have to prove you're innocent. You know?
Well, and we've said on the show before, I mean, basically, if you don't believe in conspiracy theories, don't believe in the justice system, because that's pretty much all any DA is doing is they're spinning a story. With the evidence provided, they're spinning their version of a story.
Spin a version.
They're creating a version of a dialogue. You know what I mean? And they're creating a narrative. And they actively call it that.
Absolutely.
You know? So we were going to get into it in just a second. I'm not a lone gunman guy. Steve, what about you?
Hell no.
Why
Nah, not at all. I'm not no lone gunman theory guy.
Top 3 reasons why.
Top 3?
Go.
Okay. I've seen enough stuff and evidence that I think that people provided.
Evidence provided by whom?
Investigators that, like, yeah, I can't quote exactly names and stuff.
Sure.
But, either documentaries I've seen, lots of them that I have watched and stuff like that.
You're like me. You watch a lot of documentary.
The angles,
like
the probability of a lone gunman able to do these shots all at once, or the accuracy and all that, or people that were actually there that had said they seen people in the bushes. A lot of them, even in that grassy knoll behind even in that era, they came forward, and some of them wanted to talk to the the committee that was investigating,
the Warren Commission,
right? And the Warren Commission would not even talk to them when they said they saw something in the grassy knoll, and they were left out of that.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. It was just too fishy. It was like, why would these people lie? Why? And plus, why did that motorcycle run up the hill? And there's footage of that. And people ran towards the grassy knoll trying to get whoever it was over there. Yeah. They leave that out, too.
Well, and there's... okay, so that's one
and
reason.
There's footage of that.
So that's one reason.
Oh. Okay.
Said 3.
3.
Give me 3 reasons.
I believe there's enough evidence showing that he was at a movie theater. Oswald, the whole theater thing. I kind of believe, like, I don't think he was there. I think he was elsewhere. That's one. There's a lot of people come forward. People like, people had, I don't know. Okay, for instance, who's yeah. The phone call to LBJ and his mistress. There's that one. I mean, I don't know if that's a fact, but according to her, who was on the phone with LBJ, I guess, at the time, was able to say her story, and he said JFK, I can't remember the exact quote, verbatim, like, won't be around much longer, or something like that. And that was like the night of, or something or other, the night before.
Yeah. I've never heard that one.
Never heard that one?
Never heard that one.
Yeah. From his mistress. Yeah. And there's a whole interview on there.
Now, don't get me... Okay. Third.
Okay. What's the third one? The third one is lone gunman. Okay. I already said that's too tough of a deal, I think, on, like, just logistically.
Yeah.
What would be the third one? Lone gunman. I think
one more reason why you don't buy the story that's been given for the last 50 years.
Okay. I think that I've watched the coroner and the guy at the hospital that was in charge of the body give his statement and interview testimony, and he thought it was really fishy how that went. And it was nothing he's ever dealt with before. And it wasn't just the fact that it was, a high status profile, president of the United States deal, but it was just stuff going absolutely wrong, out of the norm, that shouldn't have been done no matter what.
Parkland Hospital.
Yeah. And I believe that too.
Yeah. No. And I'm right there with you. That's one of my big ones.
And these are just simple ones that I can think of at the moment, because it's stockpiled of all these people's that were there and their testimonies I like to watch and stuff like that. And it's just crazy stuff.
And I'm trying to remember the gentleman's name. I don't have a keyboard here in front of me. Maybe you can Google it, Steve, there on your on your Imperial probe droid. But there was a third person shot that day. There was a bystander across the street from Dealey Plaza who was hit by shrapnel from a bullet that hit the curb that came from the opposite direction. Like the mark of its hit was from the opposite direction of the actual school book depository, from where Lee Harvey Oswald supposedly took his shots. And I understand, folks. There's the Warren Commission. They put a lot of research into it.
Was it James Teague? No,
might be, but he's documented Like, he's written a book. There's all
Yes,
kinds of
yes,
stuff.
he got hit in the cheek.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
him, James Teague. Yeah.
Shrapnel embedded
Yep.
in his cheek.
Yeah.
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 Yeah. It hit the curb and the manhole cover.
Yeah,
And
it hit the curb.
Shrapnel hit him in the face.
And he couldn't have received that
Not from the direction of
Right.
fire of the supposed lone gunman. No.
Well, and I forgot to mention
The mark on the curb was coming from another direction.
I forgot to mention the other obvious one, the magic bullet thing.
Sure. The magic bullet theory. I don't buy that. More than that, though, it reeks of setup. The whole thing, the fact that Oswald had expatriated himself, had gone to Russia, lived in Russia for years, that he was a known actor for the CIA. He had been used for things before. And he left, expatriated himself, and then came back. How many expats do you know that are like, especially former military people who say, screw you, America, I give up my citizenship, but then they're just allowed back in the country.
Right.
They just get a plane ticket back and come back to America.
Right.
You know, that's not your normal everyday occurrence, folks. Doesn't really happen that way. When you expatriate yourself and you give up your rights as a U.S. citizen.
No. Not at all.
So why the warm welcome, for somebody that was former military that expatriated himself to Russia and then came back and was highly involved with communist activity, and especially at the time, that was a huge hot button issue. It still is, apparently.
Or how about the one I forgot this earlier that I really believe too is E. Howard Hunt. Remember his deathbed confession? He's creditable. You can look up his credentials and what he did, and he gave that deathbed confession. The Big Show, I think it was called. Mm-hmm. They called it.
Yeah, and aside from those two reasons, I mean, those two reasons alone to me reek of something else. But aside from that, it's my experience in shooting. And don't get me wrong, I'm not like a trained sniper, okay, folks? But I'm a pretty decent shot, especially with a long rifle. I'm a pretty good shot, and I'm a pretty quick shot. And I can put them in a pretty decent pattern at a distance fairly rapidly, even with a bolt action rifle. But to be able to get off the shots that he got with accuracy,
Right.
If you're a hunter, okay, which a sniper is, all right, folks, you're following the same things. Like, you want to be upwind from your target so that they can't smell you.
Right.
Things like the exact same principles that you use in hunting and tracking. The shot would have been from Houston Street. He had the entire approach from the turn onto Houston Street with the president directly facing him.
And he didn't take it.
Where the chances of you hitting get better and better and better because your target is moving closer to you.
Mm-hmm.
No, he instead waits for the car to turn
And go down
going 20 miles an hour away from him, where the shots get progressively harder.
Yeah, that's the.
I don't bite.
No,
I don't bite that. And it's because as a hunter, I would have taken my shots when it's coming toward me. When I have the best chance of hitting it. Because even then, if you're shooting, they're going to start driving faster. Even then, you got more chance of hitting them.
Yeah. But not if they're driving faster.
Not if they're
and going
driving away from you.
Yeah.
So, and there are a lot of questions when it comes down to this. It's like I said, it is probably it's not the source of conspiracy theories because, of course, it was a conspiracy theory for a long time, and oddly enough, confirmed that the government knew about the Pearl Harbor attack. That there was advanced warning. There was advanced warning.
Right.
That was declassified a few years ago.
Right.
That, yes, we had gotten communications and we did not consider them credible.
Mm-hmm.
We did not consider it credible. So.
Damn.
That's real.
Yeah, no, that is.
Gulf of Tonkin happened right before this.
Staged.
It's what took us into Vietnam.
Right.
active false flag, like that has been declassified.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Morrison's
there's well, and then on top of that, you've got the USS Maine, which is what took us into the Spanish-American War. That came out as declassified also. That was one that was set up. You know, so it's happened before.
Right.
Why would it not happen again? And
Exactly.
the real question is, what I'd like to explore right now is, why kill John F. Kennedy? Why kill him?
Oh, geez.
Why kill him? Up to that point, one of the most beloved presidents in the history of the United States, by like a good percentage of the American people, highly respected. You know, people that didn't even agree with him couldn't not respect him.
Right.
You know, and why, Steve? Why do you think, if you were somebody in charge, why would, you know, what do you think some of the acting elements may have been?
Well, I've heard could have been like, there were so many reasons I've heard. There was a lot of reasons, like, say for instance, like going back to the gold standard. He was trying to do that.
He was.
And
he was trying to one of his missions was to try to get rid of the Federal Reserve.
Right. And that's a huge one, because we
That's a
know
big
another
one.
president was had an assassination attempt on him for doing the same thing.
Yep.
And so that's a big one. Also heard a couple weeks prior to him being killed, he wanted to do the full disclosure, I think, of UFOs and talk to the Russian president at the time.
Huh, really?
Yeah. It was like 2 weeks prior.
Huh.
There's that aspect of it. With many more, you know, things like going on in Cuba at the time. You know, they throw that in there, of course. That was a big deal going on. And so.
Well, yeah, and I mean, that's one active theory, is that the Cuban government was involved.
Right.
Because of the Bay of Pigs.
Right.
And the attempted coup.
Mm-hmm.
And the attempt on Castro's life. There were numerous attempts on Castro's life, perpetrated by our government.
And all these theories are like, you know, people batting around trying to, you know, find the motive, you know.
Yeah, and that's just it. Because, I mean, we've got a crime. What motive do we have?
Mm-hmm.
And it's great to, I mean, the term lone gunman, the term lone wolf comes from this situation, where did one person just snap and go, and like everything from Oswald's life says that he wouldn't have.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Like, he wasn't the action kind of guy, not that kind of action. He'd go out, he was seen out, you know, distributing communist flyers, things like that for the Communist Party in New Orleans, everything else.
And that's fine if, you know, you got the right to do that, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
well, you really didn't at the time.
Oh.
It was just past the age of McCarthyism. We really weren't cool with communism. Though technically, you know, you got the right to stand out on the corner and say something. You don't have the right to stand on a corner and distribute literature. There's a difference.
Okay.
Yeah. And that's the truth. But despite that, you know, the Cuban involvement is one that has been speculated for a long time. Unfortunately, we'll never know because Fidel Castro is dead.
Right.
That would have been a cool deathbed confession.
That would have.
To say, like, I did it.
That would have been, yeah.
Another big one is, of course, the fact of the mob.
Oh, yeah.
That has been burgeoned numerous times. His father, of course, was a rum runner.
Right.
During the days of Prohibition.
And some of those CIA guys back then had mob ties.
Well,
that's what they
used the mob for a lot of undisclosed stuff.
Right.
A lot. Because they had connections all over the world. They also had connections in the underground in America, things like that. And you can make things look like the mob did it.
Mm-hmm.
So That's a known connection, most definitely. But we'll get into the CIA. The thing with the mob is the fact that his father, JFK's father, actively had connections to the mob through his days as a rum runner and a bootlegger. So, and that was brought up during the Chicago election and stuff like that.
How they got funded and stuff, right?
Well, it seems like a lot of dead people voted for John F. Kennedy. It was what a lot of people said. All kinds of stuff because his father was mobbed up at one point in life. So
mobbed up.
People thought that he probably paid for some for some votes to be stuffed in, for ballots to be. They
didn't lawyer up. They mobbed up.
But because of Bobby Kennedy going after the mob, everything else, and their family connection with the mob, and supposedly the mob helping get him into office to curry favors, things like that. Because we know that the mob had senators in their pocket, all kinds of stuff at the time. But the question is, did they have enough vested interest to take out the president?
It's a good possibility.
I really don't think so.
No?
I really don't think so. It's a fly in the ointment, man.
Yeah.
It's a fly in the ointment.
Yeah.
It goes away in 4 years.
Yeah. yeah.
You can buy the next election.
No reason to commit murder. It's going away in 4 years,
Well, no reason to do something on that level.
Right.
No reason, you ain't making any kind of message. And that's the theory, is that because Bobby Kennedy, who of course was assassinated shortly after his brother, he was actively pursuing the mob. He was the first one to bring federal charges against the mafia, things like that. Well, not the first one. Technically, Elliot Ness was the first one. when he got Al Capone on tax evasion.
You're right.
Tax evasion of all things. But
he had that luxury prison cell.
So it was the mobbing up of his father and supposedly the purchasing of his election through the mob, and the supposed currying of favors that never happened. And then suddenly he appointed his brother as attorney general, and his brother starts hunting down the mob. That they were like, "Oh yeah, well we'll show you."
Yeah, we'll show you.
And there was supposedly a fairly well-known Italian hitman around Dallas at the time.
I've heard that
had flown into the United States, things like that.
Right.
But I am more of the mind that it and I'm sorry, folks, it's just me. I'm more of the mind that it was the CIA. And that will probably never, ever, 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 ever be declassified because it's so deep.
Right.
But they, of anybody, had the most vested interest.
Oh, yeah.
It was because of them that the Bay of Pigs happened, and he was convinced into the Bay of Pigs. It was because of them that it failed. There were so many things going on. They were in Cambodia at the time, and he was pretty upset about that. Air America, all that kind of stuff. That's what's funny. That shit started before the war started.
Bringing in that heroin.
They set up their presence in Cambodia in no man's land before the Vietnam War started. The CIA. So running guns to people to help them out and
red
stuff
flag
like that.
There.
And a huge red flag.
Yeah.
And he didn't like that because they were going behind his back and behind his authority and doing these things, and he was like, no, don't do them. And after the Bay of Pigs, JFK was quoted as saying, "I wish I could dismantle the CIA like a bug, leg by leg."
Yeah. He was at war kind of in a way with the CIA guy at the time. I forget the guy's name.
Allen Dulles.
Dulles, yes.
I'm getting ready to fly into Dulles Airport in a couple days.
Yeah. Oh God. Yeah. Seriously. Yeah. That name. Throughout the documentary.
I guess it's Ronald Reagan Airport now. It's not. I don't know. Beats me. Anyway,
it's better.
Or no, it's still Dulles because National Airport became Ronald Reagan Airport. Anyway.
But yeah, Dulles and him were always at ends, and
Yeah, they were always at odds. They
Yeah.
were always at odds on stuff. And shortly before the Bay of Pigs, like the Bay of Pigs was approved, it was going to happen. But the CIA came to him, and you can look on the Knowledge Vault and find stuff on Operation Northwoods, folks.
I was going to say, and he
Go
wasn't a fan
visit
of that.
dudesandbeer.com/knowledge. Go to Declassified Programs and look up Operation Northwoods. And it was quite literally a CIA program proposed to the president
Staging shit.
where they would stage acts of domestic incidents and blame them on a foreign government in order to, like, curry the favor of the American people to go in there and take care of stuff the way that we need to defend democracy.
Right.
You know? And he was like, not no, but hell no.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
You know.
That's a good one of him. Yeah.
Thank you. So,
I want to say Bobby brought that to him. No?
I don't
Maybe
know.
not that first time. It doesn't matter.
I don't
but yeah.
know. Another odd case, which involves Bobby Kennedy, which is another reason why I just don't bite. I just don't bite the fucking story, man.
What's that?
And I put explicit language on this because I knew I was going to fucking curse, dude. Because Bobby Kennedy at one point went into the National Archive. He went to the Naval Hospital. You mentioned something earlier in your disbelief, and I said I fully agree with you. The autopsy that happened was supposed to happen at Parkland Hospital.
Right.
Okay? That's protocol. Doesn't matter if it's a president or whatever.
Exactly.
You're killed here before we move a body.
Exactly.
An autopsy is done.
Right.
A violent crime has occurred.
Right.
We need to gather as much evidence as we can.
Right.
To solve this crime.
Yeah, that's the norm.
So
that's
an
protocol.
autopsy is always done before the body is moved.
Yeah.
The
CIA.
Secret Service.
Oh, Secret Service.
The Secret Service prevented that.
Mm-hmm.
They prevented that.
The doctor said they came in and he pulled back his little vest and showed him a gun and says, "We're taking the body."
Yeah.
And if he didn't get that hint, then
yeah, he said, "I don't think you understand it. The president is leaving with us now."
Yeah.
And there's the case of the extra bullet that was found on the gurney.
Yep.
And you know, the most valuable piece of all of that evidence.
That's where you get your evidence, right at that
The
moment.
most valuable piece of evidence when it comes to the wound that John F. Kennedy had is the remains of his brain.
Mm-hmm. Which went missing.
Yeah. Taken to the Naval Hospital where they did a slip shot autopsy. Like, I don't even think the dude was a coroner that did the autopsy.
Right.
You know, like quite literally.
Get an idiot to do this.
And it definitely wasn't a forensic pathologist or someone like that was trying to gather evidence as he went along. He notated things and notated some stuff that was there, but also missed quite a few things.
Mm-hmm.
They took the brain out, weighted everything else. Here's the missing supposed mass because we know what the assumed mass of a 40-year-old man should be.
Right.
Yeah. Unless you're a raging drug user or alcoholic, and that can shrink your brain matter.
Yeah, that would have been LBJ.
JFK was known to enjoy the drink.
Mm-hmm. True that.
But, Bobby Kennedy, a few years later, in order to put things at rest, as part of the family, went to request his brother's remains.
Didn't get it.
And they were nowhere to be found. Everything else was there. But this vital piece, this crucial piece of forensic evidence was missing. Just randomly.
Yeah, randomly.
Randomly. Brain's gone. And that's how we can tell, like,
top status cadaver here, and y'all lost shit.
Yeah. And he was incensed, of course, as was the family. But it's just curious as to why things were done so slipshod. I mean, this is the president of the United States we're talking about. You would think that you would want to gather as much forensic evidence as possible. You'd think that you would want to get as much firsthand as you could possibly get.
Right.
The Dallas police did a great job interviewing a bunch of people.
Right.
And that was used as were other recordings that were examined, because there was the Warren Commission and then there was another commission that happened where they basically said, listen, you had not a single scientist on the Warren Commission.
Right. What the?
Yeah. It was a bunch of people examining scientific evidence that were not scientists.
Gerald Ford was on that.
And then scientists got a hold of it. And one person actually analyzed an analog audio recording of it and separated out the difference between gunshots and like the police vehicles and the distances and everything else.
Is that the sound analysis one day?
Yeah. And, he found that, no, there were definitely more than one. There had to have been.
You can hear it
from the direction of these gunshots, just in the audio, and the way that it's louder on this side, and then you hear another one over here, and you hear like police chatter and stuff like that about it. So, to me, it's one of those that, sadly enough, even with this dump, and I've read probably about 5 documents on it so far. Like I said, there's. Good God, I just put the link because it would take up an insane amount of storage space to put all those PDFs. It's crazy. It's crazy the amount of stuff that they release.
I've seen a Japanese scientist go back and analyze the audio for gunshots, and he came to the same conclusion about the different guns and
like I said, the mountain, literally mountain of information that was just declassified. There are audio recordings, all kinds of stuff, all kinds of information. And like you said at the beginning, I think that the massive data dump is to bury people for a long time. And, I guarantee you, as you start going through some of that stuff, you're going to see some, like, just straight black pages.
Right. I
where
said
shit's
that too.
just redacted.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's going to be like, okay, you released it, but it's all blacked out.
Yeah. We released what we had. What we had is blacked out. I'm sorry.
So who's the guy with this black marker and doing this? Yeah.
It was redacted like 40 years ago, so.
How come we get these blackouts all the fucking time?
Well, and the real question is, if they're harmless documents and everything else, why classify them for 50 years? Why classify them for 50 years?
Yeah.
Why do you think, Steve?
Oh, I know why. It's because those people that are in power or in politics at that time, they're long gone after the evidence has come out.
Exactly.
Say like the Bushes that were around during that time. You didn't want to ruin anybody's political or whatever at that time that may or may not have been involved, and wait forever to release this information, because by time it's released and comes to light, then they're done, either dead or they're done with their career.
Yeah, exactly, and that's really the main reason, is to protect like everyone involved, even the people that were investigators and stuff like that.
Right.
But it would be interesting for if Zach or John or Giovanna are listening to do a JFK stories, and there's been a lot done on JFK, just like there's been a lot done on the space program. However, to talk to the stories of people who, like police officers that were there, right, things like that.
Because this other one I heard, it comes from E. Howard Hunt that gave his deathbed confession. He said that the whole, the Watergate thing of the Nixon era, that had nothing to do with, everybody thinks, what it was publicized as and reported as, but it was a safe with people's names connected to JFK's assassination.
Really?
And that's what he said. That's what that was about.
Well, that would mean that the the Democrats killed him, because that was like the Democratic office that was broken into.
Was it?
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
I'm not mistaken.
That was part of his deathbed confession.
Well, and, E. Howard Hunt is an interesting character to begin with. Unfortunately, we lost one of the great JFK researchers this last year, the great and good Mr. Jim Mars.
Mr. Mars.
Who I had the opportunity to meet and work with on a couple of occasions. But
great man.
Incredible man. And he'd done a lot of research. And the research that he came up with, feel free to go check out his books. They're available on Amazon, all kinds of stuff.
It's got great YouTube stuff, too.
Yeah. The man devoted his life to it.
Mm-hmm. You sure did.
Devoted his life to it.
From the get-go.
He was one of the people he's one of the people that maintained the X on Dallas Street.
That was recently taken away.
Yeah, recently paved over. It's gone now. But he was the one that always went out and repainted it whenever they would whenever they would repave the street or reline stuff, he'd go out and repaint the X to be like, this is the spot.
Yeah.
This is the spot that our country was betrayed.
We need a new person to go and paint that shit back.
Well, and like I said, this is the spot where our country was betrayed. Whether it be by a lone gunman, whether it be by forces that be, or powers that be, actually. It's the point at which our country was betrayed. Because, like him or not, like anybody or not, once somebody's president, like, they're our president.
It's like, the lone gunman story, it seems like it's easy to accuse that one person and have to where the people can believe, okay, here's the one dude is responsible for all this, convict him or whatever, and case closed kind of deal.
Well, and there's some psychology behind that, Stephen, quite honestly, because, even on job site, you've seen it, like, who did that?
Right.
Nobody's ever looking for more than one person.
Right. Exactly.
We want the Occam's razor. We want the simplest solution to the problem. Mm-hmm. And more than that, our psychology wants one person to blame. Mm-hmm. One person to blame. Much like people spent 8 years blaming Obama. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to agree with everything the man did. Good God, he was instrumental in striking down the Smith-Mundt Act, which is what protected the United States citizens against government-made propaganda. Look it up.
MDMA.
Struck down in 2013. So, there are things like that I didn't agree with. But like I said, he's our president. He was elected.
He has cabinet.
I don't care if it was elected by the popular vote and the Electoral College or just the Electoral College. He was elected by legal means, and he is there by legal means. So legally he has the powers of the president, which are actually really limited.
Right.
And that's what's funny is everybody blames the president. And it's like, you don't get it, bro. Yeah, there's like 100-something people over there that are fucking you over.
Didn't we have an
episode
not that
of that? One dude.
Yeah, he has like
it's not that one dude.
10 things he can do.
Yeah.
And a lot of them are hardly anything.
He can't do anything without the permission of Congress.
Yeah. Yeah.
He can't start war.
Yeah.
He can't just declare war.
No.
He can't launch nuclear weapons. He can barter treaties once Congress has said we should make a treaty. Other than that, he greets people.
Right.
He has parties. He can have any party he fucking wants. He can have a fucking party every Friday, dude. He's allowed to greet anybody he wants. But like the president, only power the president has is the power of veto. And that means I don't agree with this law, the way it's been written, the way it's been scribed, the way it's been approved. Right. Go back, redo it.
Yeah.
Bring it back to me when you're done.
That's his biggest one.
That's the only power the president has, folks. Quite honestly. Look it up.
Yep.
And as a matter of fact, look it up under dudesandbeer.com/knowledge. And go to government documents.
It's there.
And you will see the 10 jobs of the president.
His job description.
As a matter of fact,
the president's job description.
Let's just read it. Yeah. Let's just go to it.
That's good.
Let's just do it.
I think it's amazing.
So, yeah, let's come here
job
to
description. A lot of people
constitutional
don't
and civil rights.
Real simple, really.
Presidents, and like I said, dudesandbeer.com/knowledge is where we are. that's the idea behind this Knowledge Vault and these Knowledge Vault episodes, folks, is that you can follow along with us and you too can see the documentation that we're talking about. So if you go to dudesandbeer.com/knowledge, and then go to constitutional rights. If you hover over the Knowledge Vault, you'll see constitutional and civil rights pop up. And the third thing that's there is the president's job according to the Constitution. And here are 10 things. The U.S. Constitution contains the only, quote, official description for the President of the United States according to Article 2, Sections 2 and 3. The President, 1, is the Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the United States and of each state's militia when the nation has need of it. Because don't forget, we aren't supposed to have a permanently funded army. It's supposed to be called upon when necessary from the state militias and stuff like that. Number 2, the president has the power to obtain information and opinions from heads of the executive departments. Number 3, the president may grant pardons and reprieves for crimes against the United States. So that's the other power he has. I forgot. Because whenever he leaves, he's always allowed to pardon some people. Number 4,
They usually do.
Makes treaties with other countries with the approval of the Senate. Once again, appoints ambassadors, federal judges, heads of executive departments, all subject to the approval of the Senate. The president also has the power to fill any vacancies that may happen while Senate is in recess. The president must report to Congress from time to time about the State of the Union and recommend whatever measures he thinks are necessary. Number 7, the president may call members of Congress together on extraordinary occasions, as well as adjourn their meetings when they cannot agree on their own about when to do this. Number 8, the president receives foreign ambassadors and public officials. Number 9, the president is responsible for enforcing the nation's laws. Number 10, the president issues commissions to all officers of the United States.
Pretty simple.
Yeah. So, his powers are really pretty limited. There's some pardons in there. He can, promote some generals.
Yeah.
Or
He
promote
can suggest
somebody.
stuff, but-
He can make some suggestions, but there's nothing in there about, the president can write whatever law he wants. Nothing like that.
It's not a dictatorship.
Nothing like that within the 10 powers of the executive branch as laid down by the Constitution. So, once again, that bears the question. Why assassinate Kennedy? Why assassinate Kennedy? Someone who was such a unifier for the nation, someone who was actively defending the laws of the nation.
That's hardcore. Yeah. To think 4 years it could be over with, you get a new guy in there.
Yeah.
But
heck, there are government programs that the president isn't even aware of because he's considered a temporary employee. They're so classified.
Oh, yeah, no, totally.
That he doesn't even have clearance for him because he's not a permanent employee.
Yeah.
You ain't here for the long haul of 20 years, bro, so you are not on a need-to-know basis.
A lot of that UFO stuff's like that.
When it boils down to it, for me, it comes down to there was most definitely something put down to have him taken out. It wasn't a single person. There's no way that.
Long of a...
Yeah, I just don't think that Lee Harvey Oswald had the motivation in him to to do something like that, to stare down the barrel of a rifle and purposefully snipe somebody off. Takes some sincere resolve as a person. I know a couple of people who've been Marine Corps snipers, things like that, and it takes some sincere resolve of mission, and you have to understand that this is what you're doing, and it's a horrible thing, but you were doing it for a greater good. They weren't involved in wet work or anything like that, but they definitely they were not frontline fighter. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
They also weren't held prisoner. folks, just so you know, when snipers are found by the enemy, they typically are not held prisoner. They're typically just shot.
I was going to say, that only leaves one other thing.
They're considered like spies by most governments and by most militaries. They're just shot on sight. They aren't held for collateral or anything like that. They're killed as a message. And I think that was the biggest part of it for me that tied it together, was the fact that the assassin was killed. Not just that.
Oh, yeah, totally. I see what you mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking on that line also.
The assassin also at no point during custody, during questioning, anything like that, espoused hatred against the United States government, anything like that.
Well, when do you
never had a political diatribe, never had some kind of Unabomber type manifesto.
When do you bring somebody out into the public that is waiting outside, God knows who's outside, and such hate that the media's already put towards this guy and instilled into the people, and just lead him outside to the mass?
Well, and that's the prime example.
Without a protection.
No. And that's the prime example. That's the prime example of what we've talked about so many times on this show, and what the documentary on Netflix talked about, where, like, I can agree with the media has a right to cover a case. I don't agree with how media covers cases and the verbiage that they use, you know, the suspected, everything else. Like, no. Actually, it should be like Christopher Jordan was arrested. Presumed innocent Christopher Jordan was arrested today on supposed charges of this.
Right.
Not Christopher Jordan has been found to be a suspect in this crime. No, by all constitutional right, I am innocent until proven guilty.
Yeah. Don't make me guilty first.
So don't give me a presumption of guilt in your media outlet.
Because everybody listening and watching is going to think
that's
the same
all they
thing.
do is suck it up. That's it. That's all they do is suck it up, because your brain is looking for that hero. It's looking for that anti-hero. It's looking for that black and white. It doesn't. Not everybody's brains like shades of gray like mine does. My brain lives in shades of gray. Like, I want to know the nuances of things.
Yeah.
You know, but not everybody. Like John the other night. On 131 with the making of Apollo. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah.
In the era and the spirit of Apollo. We've been getting some great response on that episode just in the 2 days it's been out. But, yeah, like, he likes the gray. He lives in the gray. He's a mediator, you know, so he wants to know, like, the intricacies, like, what's motivating you as a person to want to do this.
Right.
And that's what we have to find out. And to come out and say, we have our man, you have no evidence. You have no evidence.
It's not even gone to trial.
You have a gun that you found. You have a dude that you found miles away. He was seen at work that day. He was seen in the building. He was seen on that floor. But it wasn't the typical floor for him to be on. Things like that. Not that I'm aware of anyway.
Right.
And it's one of those, like, yeah, he got a long way in a little while.
Yeah.
And they tracked him down real fast.
Right. Real fast. Yeah.
Real fast. To a random ass place. To a movie theater.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I thought what's crazy too is still to this day we haven't heard the interrogation tapes. Those never came out.
No. And I haven't gotten far enough, but I guarantee you they ain't part of this data dump.
That's what I'm saying.
And yes, folks, President Trump did, like, stop some things from coming out, you know, as was to be expected whenever we said that this was happening to begin with.
That didn't surprise
that they're
me.
going to give us a mountain of information, but it's going to be a mountain of, here's a whole bunch of information.
Right.
Not a whole lot of, like, juice and meat. And like I said, I've only read about 5 documents so far. I haven't gotten, like, a huge tome into it. But from what I've gathered thus far, it's some fairly mundane information. It's nothing absolutely revelatory. There's no new, at least where I've gotten, there's no new names.
Mundane, like basically backing up stuff we already know.
Well, not necessarily that. It's minutia of the case.
Mm-hmm.
It's minutia of the case. It's reports from people and stuff like that who looked into things and that kind of stuff. So, until now we've had the Warren Commission. Until now we've had I'm trying to remember the name of the other commission that happened. I want to say it was the Spencer Committee or something like that. But yeah, will we ever actually know what happened on November 22nd, 1963? That's the question. Like, I don't think that we're ever going to know the truth, and I think the truth will always be obfuscated from us. And I think it's sad, quite honestly. We can handle the truth.
What would be your meaning of finding the truth? What would be the thing
that it's completely revealed, completely?
So it would have to be a government.
No, I don't care if it's the government.
No. Deathbed confessions.
I don't care if a group of damn bullfrogs from Cincinnati came down, stood on each other's shoulders, and fired a fucking rifle. Yeah. Just give me the fucking truth, man.
Right, exactly.
Just give me the truth.
Yeah.
That's all I ask.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
It's a pretty simple thing.
I kind of believe E. Howard Hunt's thing, and he had a photo that they took, and he was posing as the bum at the time, and
I definitely
agents were there.
Agree
CIA.
with his idea that LBJ was not upset.
Right. Yeah.
LBJ was definitely not sad.
There was a lot of behind the scenes
happened.
that people corroborated.
I think he was more sad for the fact that he had to run as vice president.
Right.
That the party didn't vote him for presidential candidate.
There's a lot of people that came forward admitting to that were close at the time to LBJ and JFK.
Yeah. And I mean, like I said, they scurried that man away from Parkland Hospital. It was done in a slipshod manner.
Right.
They were out to the airplane, and even whenever you hear things from Secret Servicemen that were there about how they had to dismantle part of the coffin in order to get it onto the plane and stuff like that.
Damn.
Destroying
evidence.
Well, no, I mean it's a coffin.
Okay.
It's just a coffin.
Yeah.
It's not evidence.
Not the part of the body.
But I don't know. It just doesn't add up to me. By logic, it doesn't add up to me. I don't see the motivation in Lee Harvey Oswald to carry out something like that.
Nah.
He barely had the motivation to. The only reason he
because he was a communist.
Expatriated himself to the Russians,
right?
Was because he was upset that he didn't get the treatment that he thought he deserved,
right?
As a military member and as someone who wanted to go into the field that he wanted to go into.
And I'm sure there was more people that felt that way. So.
Yeah, so he thought that he'd been done wrong, and sure, an expat, why not? This dude went and joined the Russians. Why wouldn't he be the one guy?
Mm-hmm.
Especially in that day and age. That's like slam dunk.
Yeah, exactly.
Like in the days of convicting somebody, literally convicting somebody simply because of the color of their skin.
Mm-hmm.
Not that doesn't still happen here and there. Not that people don't go to jail or get shot by police, that kind of stuff. And not that injustices don't still happen in our society. But it was a little bit more rampant in 1963.
Right. A little bit. Just a little bit.
Just a little bit. And the whole time that the man was in custody, all he decried was, I did nothing. I am a patsy.
Yes, he did say that.
I'm being set up.
That's the one thing that they do say that he did say.
Consistently.
And we don't have interrogation tapes on what was said. Somebody in a documentary I watched even said that they don't think that he was even sure of what he was in there for. How
do you mean?
That even when after all this, before he even got killed by Jack Ruby, he didn't even know why they even arrested him. He didn't know about the president being shot. He didn't know what he was being accused of.
Oh, yeah, no.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So he may have even gotten killed not knowing what in the hell was going on.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I'm actually just looking up things about Lee Harvey Oswald, and as I went to Google, one of my Google headlines was from Miami New Times: CIA considered bombing Miami and killing refugees to blame Castro. Donald Trump's bold promises earlier this week to finally blow the lid off the JFK assassination mystery by declassifying reams of secret documents turned out to be a gigantic tease. The National Archives ended up making public only a fraction of the JFK documents last night. Still, the 2,800 papers, 2,800 documents, included a new document dump, confirms some salacious details of America's decades-long quest to kill or depose Fidel Castro, including a fairly shocking plan by the CIA to sow terror in Miami. After Castro's revolution succeeded and thousands of Cubans fled to South Florida, the agency actually considered murdering a boatload of refugees, assassinating exile leaders, and planting bombs in Miami. Also, Castro could be blamed for the chaos.
That's like a Operation Northwood type shit.
Weren't we? It is Operation Northwood. That's what I'm saying.
And see, didn't he shoot that down? He shot that down. He didn't believe in that.
Yeah.
There's another reason why.
He denied that.
Yeah.
He denied that.
There's another reason why right there. Because he doesn't play games like that.
Yeah.
So he don't want to play by their rules, which is they believe in doing shit like that. Staging shit.
Well, because it's easy to do. It's easy to control the media and everything else.
Shit, Hitler did it, burning buildings down. You've gone, it's like all roads lead to Rome, They did it back then too, They governments learn off each other. These little freaking tricks and just trickles down through the decades and centuries, really.
Yeah. And, that's just it. We know that our government, good God, there's billions of dollars set aside for black projects.
Right. Money off the books.
Those include all kinds of stuff, including deposing dictators, infiltrating governments, all kinds of things.
And that's that shit the president don't even get briefed on.
Some of it.
Yeah.
Some of it. And the question that comes to my mind is Oswald being in the Marines, Oswald going over to Russia, everything else. Was he an operative? That's something that's been asked for years and years. He spent time training in Mexico City, all kinds of stuff. But,
even if there's a fact on that,
he at one point tried to commit suicide when he was in Russia. All kinds of things. So the question is, if he was the lone gunman, was he possibly pushed to it by other means?
True.
Could he have been? Which
is maybe why he uttered the words, "I'm a patsy." Maybe he was close enough to know, but wasn't the actual dude.
Yeah.
But he knew he was being set up.
Yeah. Well, and the strangest thing to me, quite honestly, is the random appearance of fucking Jack Ruby killing him.
Yeah.
Here's this dude that, is apparently such a patriot and everything else. He's a freaking strip club owner.
Mm-hmm.
He's a strip club owner.
Ties to the mob, too, I think.
He was a strip club owner, not only in Dallas, but in New Orleans as well. And, it's one of those, like, I'm sorry, like you're such a patriot that you're going to go shoot the guy that shot the president. No. How'd you get a gun into the prisoner export, which they didn't use the actual prisoner export as they would normally do with the typical prisoner. They brought him out of the parking structure, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, somehow people knew because there was
exactly. They let press know and everything else.
Oh, we're coming out this door.
They were bringing him out.
Mm-hmm.
like they didn't take him out of the door that they would take normal prisoners like that, where like the press wouldn't have access. How did Jack Ruby know he was coming out of that door?
Right. Exactly.
Is he a member of the press corps?
He had some information somehow.
And even walking out, Oswald states, "I've done nothing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a patsy."
Mm-hmm.
And then gunfire.
Mm-hmm. Before he can say some more shit, silence him.
And a few shots.
Yeah.
Before anybody jumps too.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, because the rest of the people not knowing.
Well, and Jack Ruby was known to have connections with the Dallas police. I mean, good God, he's a strip club owner. He's going to know a few cops here and there.
Yeah.
Probably has a few on his payroll.
That's what I'm
at
saying.
night,
Who
off the
leaked
books,
him the info?
all that kind of stuff. So
Hey, what's going on?
Who linked that murderer the info? And yeah, it's just always stunk to me since the first time I heard the story to now. It's been one of those, like, it just doesn't all add up. And it still doesn't all add up. And I wish that, and I understand why Trump didn't declassify everything. You can't. You just can't. You just can't. It would be great, but let's start a campaign to have it declassified. Let's file a FOIA request.
It's not really a full disclosure then if you're keeping shit.
Well, it wasn't a full disclosure. It was just a declassification of some files.
There you go. That's better worded, yeah.
We declassified a mountain of JFK files. Yes, you did. You got 2,800 documents. That's a mountain of documents. I ain't even going to lie. Some of them are a couple pages. Some of them are like many, 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 many pages. So
I wonder how many times they went over that, reading it before they threw it out there. I'm sure they studied it and scrutinized it.
Well, I guarantee you that it was disseminated into piles.
Oh, yeah.
There are separate cabinets. You know what I mean? And it's like, okay, we'll pull the ones from this one. But the law was passed many years ago. I want to say in 1985 that on the 50th anniversary of the assassination, the files would be declassified. And they kept the promise. It happened. They did it. But probably, and I mean, even the fact that Operation Northwoods and those of us who have said for years that it happened, that it occurred, that the CIA, like, look, here's the document. It's fake. It's not real. Yeah. No. There it is. Black and white. It's real. The CIA actively plotted to blow some shit up on U.S. soil and blame it on a foreign government.
Mm-hmm.
So when, it's one of those things that, as someone who's been addicted in my life, I'm prone to be addicted again. You know what I mean? Someone who lies in life is prone to lie again.
Now, instead of them saying that, blame it on the foreign government, instead of wording it that way, now it's called terrorism.
And quite honestly, the main reason why I think it's the CIA is,
no, I do.
Show me any time they have not stepped before Congress and just lied.
Yeah.
Just lied.
Mm-hmm.
Straight out. Lie. Like, no question about it. Lied.
Mm-hmm.
Were you in Cambodia? Nope.
And then they catch them later. And it's like, okay, brother, didn't you just lie under oath?
Yeah. I mean, same
what about
thing.
Clapper? Stuff like that, right?
Well, I mean, all of them.
Yeah,
every one of them. The thing is that their job is disinformation.
Right. Yeah. Even when they're under oath.
It's their job.
Yeah.
It's their job. They're the spy's spy. Like, that's what they're supposed to do, is connive and conceive and deny and deflect and stuff like that, and weave realms of reasonable doubt, and weave realms of hearsay and conjecture around something. And that's why things like Operation Northwoods, people just don't believe it. They don't believe, what do you mean? CIA wouldn't? What are you talking about? Why would a U.S. government agency want to bomb something on U.S. soil? Apparently they did.
To start war.
They proposed it. They tried to get money for it. And now we have black projects.
War is money.
We didn't really have black projects at that time.
Woo.
You had to go through some extreme measures to get things funded. It kind of had to be out there in the open. So, yeah. And, for me, it's just, I think they, of anybody, had the most vested interest to gain. They had their own plot for what was going on in Vietnam. And I'm not going to deny that perhaps there were some misguided individuals in charge beyond Dulles, beyond Allen Dulles, who thought that what they were doing was a patriotic thing, a good thing, to take us into Vietnam, to get rid of communism, all that kind of stuff. But it was done by bad means. It was done by, the gun running that was done by them was utterly illegal. The drug sales that was done by them was utterly illegal.
That's how you did it.
And, you can't go like
dirty.
Well, the problem is you can't go fund rebels.
Yeah.
With illegally gotten money.
And we've got a history of doing that.
We've got a huge history of doing that.
Still to this day.
Iran-Contra.
Yep.
That happened.
Yep.
That happened. And I'm actively working on trying to get William Tosh Plumlee on. He was actively somebody who, worked in
Isn't that what
program.
Oliver North took the fall for?
He's one of the people who came out in Iran-Contra and testified before Congress as, no, I was there. I did stuff for them.
And now he has a TV show on the satellite cable television.
Oliver North?
Yes.
Oliver North does. Yeah. Oliver North took the fall.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
He took the fall for everybody.
Yeah, he took the fall.
Robert Tosh Plumlee, or William Tosh Plumlee, was one of the people who came out and said, no. He was a whistleblower when it went down. He's like, no, this really happened. I flew planes.
Yep.
That's what I did.
Yep.
That was my job,
Because that's what they told him to.
So,
following orders.
Even Fast and Furious, selling guns to cartels in Mexico through shell company gun stores in Arizona and New Mexico. Mm-hmm. Stuff like that.
They get these guns back and the serial numbers are to us. Yeah. How do you think they got them?
Yeah, there were 5.50 caliber rifles found in El Chapo's fucking house that were all from Fast and Furious sales. So it's great. Yeah, you're actively selling guns to cartels to try to catch them.
Right.
I don't see nobody caught.
I don't think arming them is trying to catch them.
So, yeah, that's where I stand on it. That's just where I come down with the JFK assassination. Whether it was the CIA, whether it was somebody else, I definitely do not believe that it was just Lee Harvey Oswald.
No, that's a bullshit story.
I really don't. His riflery scores in the Marines were not extraordinary. He didn't win a marksmanship ribbon,
right,
or anything like that. He was never awarded a marksmanship ribbon or anything. He was a fair to median, better than average shot,
right?
But was he sniper material? Was he able to hit? Because you're talking about hitting something going 20 miles an hour away from you with something the size of your, smaller than the size of your pinky.
I was going to say,
with a 10 power sight, 10 times sight. What you just go out and buy for $30 at fucking Academy for your BB gun. That's the equivalent of what he was using on that rifle.
It might have been a size of a dime or something that he had to hit, right? Some or other.
Well, no. He had the torso of a human.
Yeah.
He had take from the shoulders up. and that was his target zone, you know? So he had approximately the size of like 2 watermelons sitting next to each other.
Right.
To be able to hit, technically, the size of a watermelon. If you think about it. Because if you'd shot him in the shoulder or something, he wouldn't have died.
Nah.
You know? Where he was in the limousine, and especially shooting from the rear, you wouldn't have had access to a lung shot.
The first lady
Or
wouldn't hit.
or a mid-torso shot. You know what I mean? So you're looking at something approximately the size of a medium-sized watermelon at a pretty good distance. You know, I think it was probably 100 yards, something like that, from the top of that window down to the middle of Dealey Plaza on Dallas Street. So, like, that's the length of a football field to hit a moving object that's going away from you.
Yeah. Pretty impossible almost.
Yeah.
Close to it.
It's for someone who's an average marksman. Yeah. You know, especially the number of shots that he got off and the number of shots on target. Because he hit 2 people. However, the Warren Commission says there was only 1 bullet that was fired. Well, not fired, but only 1 bullet that struck. Out of the 6 that were fired.
The zigzagger.
6 shots. 6 shots in less than 10 seconds.
Damn.
It's less than a second a shot to be able to center, pull, unbolt,
yeah.
rechamber, recenter, pull.
I'm not talking
unbolt,
automatic.
Pull, you know, boom, boom, boom,
And have
boom, 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 boom. And even like trained marksmen have an issue pulling that off.
Because you have to reset every time.
With the, what was it, a Manly Kharkov. It was, or not Kharkov, it was a Manly something, damn it. But it was an Italian-made rifle. And, you know, strip clip, stuff like that, held maybe like 8 rounds. But, yeah, you know, not basic, off-the-shelf, common fucking rifle. I think he paid like $12 or $15 for it.
Damn.
Something like that. Because they were so mass-produced. Like, it wasn't like some ultra-precision 308 hunting rifle. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't anything like that. So it was ordered out of a catalog. But
ordered out of the catalog.
And yeah, it just I don't know. To me, it's never added up, and it never will add up. It never will add up. And so long as we have a government that's willing to obfuscate things from it, that's willing to keep the truth from us, quite obviously they've been willing to keep the truth that our government agency was willing to blow some stuff up on U.S. soil
just
for
like that.
50 years. For 50 years. In theory, that should bring some other things into question. Actually,
exactly. That's what I was thinking.
I hypothesize that should bring some other things into question.
Other things that don't add up.
I'm not going to theorize. I'm going to hypothesize that should bring some other things into question. But it doesn't for a lot of people. And, you know,
we got that big time span in between all this.
Much like my great-grandmother did not, till the day she died, believe that the Apollo missions happened.
Wow.
Could not happen. How could they happen? That's not possible. We can't do that.
Right.
You know? Yeah, just firmly believed it. My grandmother, on the same side of my family, firmly believed that it was just Oswald. Couldn't be anything else.
Too much TV.
Couldn't believe anything else. No, not enough TV.
Not enough TV.
Not enough TV is what that is. And the reason I say that is because, like, I think TV provides a realm of imagination. But yeah, no, she just grew up with a faith in her government. She grew up with a faith in her country. She grew up with that concept of America.
Of course, yeah.
You know, like she lived through World War II. She lived like stuff like that. So they'd never do that.
Right.
They'd never do that.
Yeah. That's crazy talk.
That's unbelievable. But we do that.
It's been proven.
Well, I mean, it's been proven that we know that we've actively taken people out. I mean, good God, we took Osama bin Laden out, supposedly.
Yeah. 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 Where's the body?
It's in the bottom of the ocean somewhere.
In the ocean.
In the Bay of Qatar.
They wanted to get rid of his ass in full prejudice.
Yeah.
Get his ass in, but we're going to make sure he get his proper burial for his religion that he's in.
Yeah.
So we dumped him.
Yeah. But for her, it was the fact of the government would never do that. Why would the government do something like that? Even the concept of it being more than one person, of it being a conspiracy of people. And that's what conspiracy means, folks, is more than one person colluding to an ultimate end.
Mm-hmm.
That's all it means. That's it.
That's it, yeah.
Whether it's actors in the government, where it's individual actors like the people who assassinated not John F. Kennedy, Abraham Lincoln, and attempted the life of the Secretary of State.
It wasn't just Booth going nuts.
Yeah, it wasn't just one person. There was more than one person that were Sons of the Confederacy that went after that goal, and it was a band of people that did it. And I just truly believe that. I think in order to and I'm not saying that a single person can't go up and do something like that. Who was the next president after Lincoln? Was it Madison? I think that was shot. And then after that was Reagan. We had a long stretch. But even Reagan, with all of his stuff.
Wasn't there Garfield that was attempted?
Garfield, that's
Garfield.
it. Garfield. Yeah. Yeah. And I know, I don't think he was president yet, but I'm pretty sure that FDR was shot. Because he continued his speech with the bullet in him.
Yeah, he had that little book in there. Stop the bullet.
He continued the speech with the bullet. But, yeah, I mean, it's happened before, and I'm not going to say that there aren't lone people that it doesn't occur. But I just, like I said, the mentality of Oswald, the type of person that he was, the fact that he tried to commit suicide when he was in Russia, you know.
The mentality.
That's not really a mentality of conviction to a purpose. That's a mentality of somebody grasping for a purpose. And that's typically not the mentality of an assassin.
Right.
You know, like an assassin is driven toward a purpose. You are driven to do this one thing. That's what you're there to do. Like, you will stalk them like prey. And I just don't see that planning of forethought in the life of Lee Harvey Oswald, in the military career of Lee Harvey Oswald.
Right.
In anything like that. You know?
Wasn't there.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't see that. What I do see is some communist leanings. Even his cohorts in the Marines. What was it? Lee Harvey Krasnov or something like that. Like that, because, you know, he always talked about communism and things like that.
Right.
Like, he was a Marine, but like, he did that because that's what you did. That's what poor people do. They go join the military and you're taken care of. You get three hots and a cot and you get a paycheck. You know? You sign up for 4 years.
3 hots in a cot. Can't pass it up.
The only difference between that and prison is you can still vote and you get paid more money.
You might be able to watch TV when you want to.
No.
Oh, okay, maybe not.
It's the military. No, and it was 1963. Everybody didn't have a TV. But it's the concept of what he was ripe for is manipulation.
Right.
He was ripe for manipulation. He was an underachiever. He, wanted purpose but couldn't really find purpose.
Right.
Couldn't really find his place amongst his peers.
Mm-hmm.
And the question is,
so he could still have possibly been part of the plot, but maybe one that he thought he was a part of, but they were actually setting him up to be the patsy.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what I think, too.
Oh,
yeah.
no, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that's why he said, no, I'm a patsy.
Yeah.
Like, he blew
Yeah.
the whistle.
Yeah.
He blew the whistle.
And before he could talk more shit, that's
killed
why
him.
they had to kill him.
They killed him. They offed him. Absolutely.
Dead
Because
man
it
don't tell tales.
didn't go the way he thought it was going to go.
Yeah.
And no offense, but the innocence of his mind, like it's pretty rare that you leave a loose end
Mm-hmm.
when you're pulling when you're pulling an assassination. You don't leave a lot of loose ends.
Oh. Then shortly after that, Jack Ruby dies.
Mm-hmm.
Of more natural deals. But...
Yeah, Jack Ruby dies.
Yeah.
Shortly after that, we have the assassination of Robert F. Kennedy. Then we have the horrible assassination of Martin Luther King Jr.
Mm-hmm.
And we may have to spend a different episode on it. But even with the assassination of MLK, I'm of the mind that he believed it was coming.
Right.
That he truly believed that he was coming, that it was on its way, it was going to happen. It was just a matter of time.
I wouldn't be surprised if it was some of the same people.
Well, yeah, and I mean, good God, I'm looking at having Larry Pinkney on. He has told me to contact him. Just so you know, folks, who Larry Pinkney is. He is actively one of the original founders of the Black Panther Party.
Oh, okay.
Like back in the day. Not the new Black Panther Party.
Right. Two
but
different
the actual
ones, yeah.
Black Panther Party.
Right.
The people who believed in like enriching their community, putting community programs together. We need to police ourselves. We need to look after ourselves. The government isn't going to look after us.
Right.
That was the idea. The CIA actively distributed like pamphlets. You can go online and find them.
Damn.
Yeah, like describing them as a terroristic organization, shit like that. Like it was propaganda put out by the CIA.
Well, any militia is labeled terrorist.
And then they were later quite literally infiltrated. And that's what begot this militaristic arm and everything else. And like that's what they do. That's what they do. And they do it in the guise of democracy. They do it in the guise of things like that.
Right. To think that you're labeled a terrorist and you're doing exactly what the law lets you do, and somehow you're labeled a terrorist.
Well, I mean, they didn't really have that label at the time.
Yeah, true that.
And granted, the new Black Panthers are on a whole nother level. They do not ascribe to the same things that the original Black Panther Party ascribed to.
Right.
But that's one of the things that was actively going on. That's one of the things that was actively going on. At the same time, you had the assassination of Malcolm X.
Mm-hmm.
Even speaking on the revolutionary side of the civil rights movement.
Like when a leader speaks, a leader dies type of deal.
Yeah, man. Live in color, bro.
Yeah.
Little Glover action.
Yeah. That's where that's
Crispin Glover. No, I'm just playing. Not Crispin Glover. Could you imagine Crispin Glover as the lead singer? He's the dude that played George McFly.
Oh my God.
Could you imagine Crispin Glover as the lead singer of fucking Living Color? No, that's actually Danny Glover's son. Danny Glover's son is the lead singer of Living Color. Was. I don't know if he still is. I know they still play. But Yeah, and as we wrap this up, folks, it's just one of those that, remember, your government's going to declassify things. They declassify stuff all the time. Feel free to follow the Dudes and Beer Knowledge Vault. I put a lot of stuff up there.
That's where all the good info's at.
Dudesandbeer.com /knowledge. It's your one-stop shop for declassified projects. Patents that you may not know of, things like that, things like what we're discussing tonight, things like the Brookings Report, which was commissioned by the government to disclose or talk about UFOs and try to disprove them. All kinds of research into the Brookings Report was actually about what the impacts of space travel could be. And one of the things they said was we may run across another life form. And at that point, we may not want to tell people because that might destroy society as we know it.
There's actual written document that Jimmy Carter wrote in 1969, right before, but he was in politics, but before he was president, and that when he saw a UFO, and he written it actual document to the government, and it's on file. And
Jimmy Carter fully saw UFO, and there was a fleet of UFOs sighted over DC. All kinds of stuff.
Right,
that's there. But the Knowledge Vault is there for these Knowledge Vault episodes like this, where we talk about this kind of stuff, and you can actively look at what we're talking about. Like I said, go check it out. Operation Northwoods existed. Just got finished reading you an article from the Miami Times that was talking about it. And that was one of the many things that was confirmed with this data dump.
Like I was saying
which to me, quite honestly, like, if you're talking about, like I said, burying things in a mountain of data,
they're good at that.
If you're going to bury people in a mountain of data and they're looking for one thing in specific, and they have their blinders on and they aren't looking at everything that's there, they may just roll over the fact that the CIA just tried to get money to blow some shit up on the U.S. soil and blame it on a foreign government.
Yeah. It kind of reminds
like you may just skip over that fact as you're skimming for shit about Oswald.
Well, they said that's how the Patriot Act got done.
That's hey,
and a mountain of data.
I have ACA, too big to read it.
Yeah,
got to vote on it so we have time to be able to read what's in it.
Yeah.
That's the attitude of our government these days, folks, and that's the attitude that we have to stop. We have to stop that. We have to stop electing people of that attitude on both sides of the fence, on all sides of all parties. We need to get rid of a party mentality. We need to start thinking of things in a unified mentality, and of a mentality and a mentality of right and wrong, and in a mentality of good-heartedness, and a mentality of compassion toward each other, for each other, with each other.
Right.
Like I said, the mind wants a devil. It wants one person. One. Because it's so easy to understand.
Right.
If you look at your finger, even if you put your finger up, Stephen.
Got it.
Put it in front of your face. Doesn't it kind of look like you're pointing right at me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Because one. That dude.
That dude did it.
That dude did it. That dude. One dude. Much like it wasn't just Ollie North.
Yeah.
All right. Ollie North wasn't the only dude making phone calls to make that happen.
And he was just following orders.
There were a whole lot of people. Making phone calls to make Iran-Contra happen. Ollie North just took the fall. All right. And that's what we have to remember.
It's been working this way forever.
Is that so often it's not just one. It's not just one.
Nope.
And on that note, guys, please continue to tune in to Dudes and Beer. Keep on listening.
Yeah.
Thank you to everybody that tuned in today for this emergency drive time broadcast.
Just had to do this.
We had to, man. It had to be talked about. It was on both of our minds.
It was.
And we were on separate sides of the room, but I could feel the vibe of like, dude,
something bigger going on.
Like, we need to talk about this. So we came and we talked about it, and we conquered, and we did it.
We conquered.
And I'm excited for future Knowledge Vault episodes.
Me too.
Where we talk about disclosed things, where we talk about this kind of stuff. I think it's a great concept.
Yeah.
I think it's something that our audience is going to love. And speaking of things that our audience is going to love, we've got all kinds of stuff coming out. We got some new, we got a Thinking Deeply with Billy Dorsey coming out. We got a Dads and Beer with one of our regular guests, Stone Winchester, coming out. All kinds of things. We're looking at. We got to do another live episode soon, somewhere on location in town.
Yeah.
But while you're online, make sure to check out the HC Universal Podcast Network. We are a proud member of the HC Universal Podcast Network.
Yeah, we are.
And love it. Until next time, everybody, don't forget our good friends over at Hops and Grain. Thank you so much, Hops and Grain. We love you, we love you, we love you. Drinking Zoe right now. Until next time, everybody, if you can't be good, be good at it.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Dudes and Beer Podcast. To listen to our audio streams and chat with us live, download the official Dudes and Beer app for both Android and iDevices, available on the Google Play and iTunes markets. For more episodes, content, and information, visit us online at dudesandbeer.com. You can also find our episodes on Spreaker, SoundCloud, YouTube, Stitcher, or your favorite podcast service. Thanks for listening, everybody. And until next time, drink responsibly.